The 6th gen Honda Civic is actually pretty cool. Let's go over the Honda Civic, some specs, then compare Rice versus Nice. The CX, DX, and LX had the D16Y7 motor with 106 horsepower and 103 foot-pounds of torque, while the EX trim had the D16Y8 motor with a much needed power increase at 127 horsepower and 107 foot-pounds of torque. There is an SI model that wields the semi-legendary B16A2 motor with 160 horsepower, but the SI will be quite a bit more expensive and much harder to find. The 0 through 60 for the D16Y7 motor is a modest 9 to 11 seconds with an automatic transmission, but with the manual transmission it's quite a bit quicker. What can I say? These Hondas were built to be econo boxes from the factory, with an average of 36 to 44 miles per gallon, which is really good, especially since the greedy oil companies are raising the prices of gas. The performance potential for these JDM beasts is almost endless if you have deep pockets. You could obviously do an engine swap from a K series or throw in a much cheaper B series motor and achieve some pretty impressive horsepower numbers. But even with a cheap $500 eBay turbo, you can pack on 300 wheel horsepower. And that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
There are so many different ride-ups and different ways that you can modify these cars, and it's almost endless. Now, the stock D16 motors are known to throw rods with a little bit of so if boost is on the menu for this build, then be sure to add building the bottom in as well. And if you do that, you should be able to see 300 wheel horsepower pretty easy with the proper tune. The Civic has a huge following, and because of that, it has a pretty huge aftermarket selection. Performance and handling modifications are cheap and easy to come by, and visual modifications can really turn your Civic from an outdated EcoBox to something a bit more modern and visually appealing. But with that, the aftermarket holds the rice. I may hurt some of y'all's feelings, but hold on. Now for starters, I personally don't want to hear your loud four-banger revving off the rev limiter from a mile away. And this is a nice exhaust note, and you can do this without annoying your entire neighborhood, which is pretty cool. Installing a big wing on your slow Honda Civic. Wings help with downforce. If your Civic is stock and slow, there is no need to slap a huge wing on it. But this is a nice modest example without having a huge wing. Body kits are cool, but not if it looks like this. But this body kit is definitely something worth looking at. It's simple, sweet, and sleek, and that's what I like, personally. Now, I'm okay with the rest of modifications. I am. I personally don't like them, but I'm okay with them. You do you. As long as it doesn't annoy other people, like this. In my opinion, the wing takes away from the car and adds a lot of weight. That's something people forget. And instead, this wing is a bit more appropriate. And finally, Lambo doors. Just not a huge fan, but once again, you do you. The 6th gen Honda Civic can be more than a rice. It can. People who annoy other folks with their crazy modifications give the car community a bad name, along with all the other toxic people who don't accept others for them being who they want to be within the car community as well, but especially people with fart cannons. And that's a part of why there are more and more regulations on modifying cars, because people who don't modify cars get annoyed.
Sunroof too. Pop your little head out and look at everybody. Yeah. Look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that.
Now the prices for these cars are kind of pricey in decent condition. That's mainly due to their reliability, miles per gallon, and their nameplate during these trying times. It's funny because you can buy a stock Civic cheaper than a modified Civic, but there are a bunch for sale, and I know supply and demand is not what's raising the prices in this case. Instead, it's the sellers who think that their clapped out Civic is worth $5,000. But here's a decent one for $3,000 with 165,000 miles, which is nothing on a Civic. And if you keep it stock or slightly modify it and keep it reliable, you should see well over 300,000 miles. If you're at this price point, then check out this video, because those are also pretty cool cars. This is Chris Automotive. I always appreciate and respect one another. I'll see you next time.